Lakeflow Declarative Pipelines is a framework in Databricks that's designed to simplify the creation of batch and streaming data pipelines using SQL and Python. It enables data engineers and analysts to build, manage, and monitor ETL workflows efficiently while reducing operational complexity. Lakeflow Declarative Pipelines support data ingestion from various data sources such as cloud storage like Amazon S3, Azure ADLS Gen 2, and messages such as Apache Kafka, Amazon Kinesis. It also facilitates the incremental batch and streaming transformation, and the framework automates complex administrative tasks, ensuring data quality with built-in validation and monitoring. For instance, we can use Lakeflow Declarative Pipeline to ingest raw files from the cloud storage bucket, transform them into structured tables, and create materialized views for analysis. And this is particularly useful for scenarios like real-time data processing and building dashboard for business intelligence. So basically, pipelines are defined declaratively in Databricks Notebook or in SQL files using either Python or SQL. The framework uses Autoloader for incremental data ingestion, which automatically detects and processes new files in cloud storage. So in this video, I'm going to show you how we can architect this solution from the beginning to the end. We're going to start off by creating all the necessary objects like the Unity catalog, the schemas. We're going to create our volumes, ingest all the files for this project, which I'm going to show you in a matter of moments. And then we're going to start writing all our files from the landing zone into the bronze schema of our Medallion architecture. We're going to transform the data or clean the data in the silver layer. We're going to also create our materialized views in the silver layer, and of course, we're going to create the business level aggregate in the gold layers. So this is going to be a fully packed end-to-end data engineering solution that I spent a quality of time to put together in order to help you understand how this thing works in real time. And of course, this solution can be adopted by an enterprise organization that are leveraging Databricks in their data management. So if you're new to this channel, please click on the subscribe button. It doesn't hurt you, and it's going to encourage me to keep on sharing my free knowledge with you guys. So please subscribe to the channel, toggle on the bell icon, share this video with your friends, and comment in the section below. So enough of all these talks, let's dive into the solution. To get this end-to-end data engineering solution started, I'm going to show you the fact and dimension files that contains all the transactions in our files. I'm going to come to my folder, and I've got this fact underscore sales.csv. This is the transaction or the fact table, and I've got this customer.csv, product.csv, region.csv. These are the dimension files that contains the customer details, product details, and the region details. I'm not going to talk about this fact sales 2025. We're going to be talking about this later on when we are performing the incremental data loading using the cloud file functions of the Databricks Autoloader. Now let's check the content of the fact sales. I'm going to come to the CSV, and I've got these columns of data that span across column A to column I. So I've got the sale ID, order date, customer ID, product ID, quantity, discount, region ID, channel, and the promo code. So these are the foreign keys, and of course we have the primary keys in the fact dimension tables for the customers, products, and regions. And of course I've got this product ID and the region ID. So I'm going to come to the column E, specifically the quantity, and I'm going to press Control down arrow key. So you observe that I've got some columns that contains null values, that is empty. I'm going to press Control down arrow key, and I've got some. So I'm going to be handling all of these using the constraints in the materialized view of the silver layer later on. And I've got same thing in the channel. When I press Control down arrow key, we have some missing channels. So we're going to be dropping all of this based on the constraint expectation we're going to be included in the solution. The same thing applies to the promo code. Now let's see the content of the customer. So we have the customer ID, which is the primary, and I've got the first name, last name, email, join date, and whether the customer is a VIP or not. And we can see the product. So in the product, I've got the product ID, product name, category of the product, the price, and how many of the product we have in stock. And I'm going to come to the region. We've got the region ID, the name of the region, and of course this country. So this is how the data looks like. Now, the first thing we're going to do is to create our unit catalog, and we're going to create 4 schemas. One is going to be the landing zone. We're going to create the bronze, silver, and the gold layer, which is in line with the medallion architecture. So I'm going to come back here, and this is going to be the Databricks free version. So you can actually create this kind of account and follow along in this experience. Now, to create the catalog, I'm going to come to the catalog, and I can see the option to create a new catalog. I'm going to call this one Lakeflow underscore DLTUC create to create. So this is going to be created in a matter of seconds, and we want to create 4 schemas. So to create the schemas, I'm going to click on the name of the catalog, and I can see the option to create schema at the top right hand corner. Let's call this one landing zone. I'm going to be ingesting all our files in Databricks managed volume in the landing zone. I'm going to click on create, and this is now created. Let's go ahead and create the bronze catalog or schema. So I'm going to call this one bronze, and I'm going to press create. So the schema is now created, and then I'm going to click on the name of the catalog again, create the schema for silver, and I'm going to click on create. And finally, for now, I'm going to create the gold schema, and I'm going to click on create. This is now sorted, so I can see the landing zone. We have the bronze, the silver, and of course the gold schemas, which are of course databases. So we want to come to the landing zone. Now we're going to create manage volume in the landing zone and create some directory and load each of the files for the fact sales, customers, products, and the regions into each of the directories. To do that, I'm going to make sure this is selected, and I can see the option to create a volume, and I can give this a name. Let me call this one facts and dimension files, and this is going to be a managed volume. So I'm going to click on create, and this is now created in a matter of seconds, so we can see that there. So within this, I'm going to create the directory for each of the files, because we want to make sure that we don't put all those fact and dimension tables inside the same directory. It's going to cause an error or cause problem in the future. So the good idea that I recommend is to create individual directory and put those files, and you're going to see the reason why I'm doing all of this later in the part of the video. So we want to create a directory. I'm going to call this one fact sales, and I'm going to click the create. So this is going to be created, and I'm going to swiftly load the fact sales file into that location. So double click and click on the upload. So this is now loaded. I'm going to step out of that directory, and I'm back to the main directory, and I will create a new one for the DIM customers. So you observe that I'm actually prefixing DIM for the dimension tables. So I'm going to click on create, and this is created. Similarly, I'm going to upload the DIM or the customers CSV file. Double click, upload. I'm going to step out. Again, I want to create the third one. This is going to be DIM products, and click on create. So this is now created. I can close this for now, upload, browse through my local file, and double click on the product, double click to click on the upload. So this is now uploaded, and I can go to the top, and I can create the final one, which is the DIM underscore regions, and I'm going to click on create. So this is now created as a directory. I'm going to upload to this volume, click on the browse, double click on the region.csv, and upload. Now I'm going to double click on the fact sales, and I can click on the file itself so that I can see the content just to inspect. So I've got the sale ID, the order date, customer ID, product ID, quantity, discount, region, channel, and promo code. So this is excellent. Now I'm going to close that for now, and we want to go ahead and create our Lakeflow ETL pipeline in the job and pipeline using the unit catalog and the landing zone schema. I'm going to come to the jobs and pipelines, And I can see the option to build ETL pipelines using either SQL or Python languages. So I'm going to click on this ETL pipeline, and this is the beginning of the Lakeflow Declarative Pipelines in Databricks. So the first thing you want to do is to give this a nice name, because it's going to contain the source code and all our transformations that we're going to be performing in this high level solution. I'm going to call this one Declarative Pipelines Lakeflow, and I'm going to just press enter. So this is automatically logged in. So I'm going to click on this to choose the Unity catalog, which is the Lakeflow underscore DLT underscore UC. And of course, I'm going to choose the schema. So in this case, I'm going to choose the landing zone. So this is going to be where by design all our source code will be stored, and all our tables, including the streaming, live tables, and the materialized views. So once this is sorted, there's an option to start with this sample code in SQL. You can also start with this sample code in Python, but we want to go advanced, so we want to start from the scratch. So I'm going to start with an empty file. So I'm going to click on this, and this is going to prompt me to choose the folder path where my source code and my transformation will be living inside my workspace. So you can see a dedicated folder for the pipeline is created at the selected location. This folder is the default location for source code, and we'll also create an initial file to help you get started. So this is automatically going to be within my workspace. You can see the path, workspace, user, and then your email address. And I'm going to choose the preferred language for the first file. So in this case, we're going to be performing this declarative Lakeflow pipeline using the SQL, and I want to click on select. This is going to show this empty file without any code generated. Now, if you're probably new, you may be so confused on how to get started, because there's so many things to learn from this new Lakeflow designer. And to start from this left hand side, we've got the pipeline. So in this case, we've got this pipeline asset, which include this Databricks Declarative Lakeflow Pipeline folder that is created in your workspace. Now, to see that, I can quickly just navigate to the workspace and can see the folder. So I'm going to step out, and I can see the Databricks Declarative Lakeflow Pipeline, and this was created just today, the August 17, 2025 by 3:19 p.m. When I go right in there, I'm going to see the transformation. So this is where all our source code and all our transformation will be living. And by default, we have this my underscore transformation.sql file that we can use to start reading the files into the bronze schema and so on and so forth. So this is the part. Now I'm going to click on this to go back to where I was previously. So you can see I'm back into the Lakeflow designer, which is really fine. And then if you have more files, you can click on this and you can see all the files within your workspace. We've got this folder, and we've got this big hour sales and so on and so forth. So I want to switch back to the pipeline. And then, as I've mentioned, we have the transformation, and then we can use, based on the Databricks recommendation, use this My Transaction SQL to perform all the transformations and the writing of the code. Now I can see the Lakeflow Pipelines editor on. So you want to actually switch on this new pipeline editor for the Lakeflow, because it gives you more understanding of what you're trying to achieve. I've got this connect, which allows me to connect to my compute. And I've got in the settings, I can go to the settings, I can see the pipeline ID, the pipeline type as ETL pipeline, and I can see the name that I gave, and I can see the pipeline mode as triggered, and I can see the name of the creator, the name of the owner. And then for the code asset, we have this root folder, and when you click on it, you can see default location for source code automatically appended to Python sys.path to support import of modules and packages in this folder from source code files. And then we can always make changes to this by clicking on this configure path if there is a need to make changes. But in this case, you don't need to make any changes to this path. And then for the source code, this is the path to notebook of files that contains pipeline source code. And then we can see the default location for the data assets. We have the default catalog, which is what we specified, lakeflow.dlt or Lakeflow underscore DLT underscore UC, and the name of the default schema, which is the landing zone, which contains all our volumes with our sample, sales, facts, dimension tables. And then you can also edit this if there's a need in the future. And then we can see this is going to be using the serverless compute. And then for the environment, this is automatically set for you. So basically, you don't need to do anything on this side. So once you're happy, you can also come to the JSON code of what you're seeing in the pipeline settings. So this is the JSON that contains the key value pairs, and you can see the same content in YAML language. So these are all there for you to explore. So once you're happy, you can close this for now. And then on the right hand side again, we have this pipeline graph. So this is going to show you the graph as we are building in the work. So we're going to be seeing all of this later on. So you can perform what is called dry run, which basically checks all definitions, types, and references in this pipeline without creating or updating any tables, and then we can run the actual pipeline. So you're going to see all of that in action. So for the maximized, so you can maximize to see more of the pipeline graph. So you can also click on this to minimize, and then we have this pipeline graph. So you can only see them by default. You can turn them off if you don't want to see them. Can you see? To turn them on, just bring them back. So if you're collaborating, you can also click on this to apply comments, and then we have this version history to track the version history. And you can also move this to the right hand side a little bit based on your preference so that you can see all the code you're writing in this SQL file. And then at the bottom, we have the tables. You can see the tables and you can see the performance. And we're going to be seeing all of this as we go on in this video. So what I'm going to do next is to start reading all the files from the volumes directly into the bronze schema, and it's going to give me the beginning of the medallion architecture. So in this case, I can come here, I can right click, and I can rename. And I can also move this into a folder. I can clone, I can download, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to right click or click on this kebab to rename. So I'm going to call this one bronze underscore transformations.sql. You can use whatever name you like, but make sure it ends with .sql because it's going to be a SQL file. So I'm going to click on OK, and this has been renamed. Now we're going to start off by reading all the files from the individual directory into the bronze layer. So let's just start by just creating a comment. I'm going to click here, read fact. Let's have the fact sales from volume to bronze schema. And for this, we're going to start off by using the create streaming live table. And I'm going to give this a name. So in this case, I actually want to control where this create streaming live table will be stored. So I'm going to actually specify bronze, which is consistent to the 4 schemas I created. So I can see I've got the bronze, I've got the landing zone, the silver, and the gold. So I'm going to type in bronze dot, and I can give that a name. Let's call this one fact underscore sales. And I can put in a comment. So comment inside double quote. I'm going to say, hey, raw fact sales from volume to bronze schema. And I'm going to use the as select, and we're going to be selecting using the select star from cloud files. Now the cloud file is basically the autoloader functions that continuously read data files as they arrive in the directory of the volume in an incremental manner to the downstream activities of the ETL workflow that we're going to be creating. So I'm going to type in cloud files. So this is the way we specify the autoloader. So you want to make sure it is cloud underscore files, not file, but files. And I'm going to open a bracket. So this is a function that requires 2 mandatory arguments. The first argument is the path you're reading from, and then the second argument is the file format. In our case, our file format is going to be CSV. And of course, you can also include the third argument, which is to read header. So I'm going to press enter, and inside the single quote, I want to specify the path for this fact sales file. So I can also see the Unity catalog from the side, which is really cool for me. So I'm going to go to the landing zone, and I can see the fact sales volume. I'm going to expand, and I can see the directory we created. Now, don't forget, we have all the files right inside each of the directory, but we're not going to be referencing the name of the actual CSV files. We're going to be calling the name of the directory. Okay, so despite the fact that I've got fact underscore sales as the name of the directory and fact underscore sales as the name of the file, they're actually not going to be treated as the same. So I'm going to actually refer to this fact sales. So I can come here, make sure I'm inside this single quote, and I can see the option with this double chevron. Click on that, and it's going to automatically populate that path for me without any struggle. Now I'm going to get rid of this forward slash, and I'm going to come here, put in a comma. So this is the first argument of the cloud files function that performs the incremental data loading, which is known as the autoloader in Databricks. So with that sorted, I'm going to inside double quotes type in CSV because our data contain CSV. If you're dealing with Parquet file, you're going to type in Parquet, or if you're dealing with JSON, you have to type in the JSON as the file format. But in our case, this is a comma separated values. So this is the first and the second parameters of these cloud files. I'm going to put in a comma, and I can use a map function. And the map functions allow me to specify the headers, and of course, in fast schema if I intend to. So inside the single quote, because my data contain headers, I'm going to type in header, and I'm going to set this equals to inside single quote true. Of course, I can include the info schema, but we don't need to do all of that because we're going to be doing the data cleaning in the silver layer later on. So this is going to be the code to read the fact sales from the volume directory into the bronze schema using the fact underscore sales as the streaming live table name. So I'm going to just quickly copy all this, and I'm going to come to the bottom, give some space, Ctrl V. Let's just modify this. I'm going to call this one products, and I'm going to double click. I'm going to call this one products, and I can just double click, copy this, and I'm going to call this one theme products underscore products, which must be consistent with the name of the file. You can see this is theme products, but the name of the actual file is products.cd. So I'm actually referring to the name of the directory, not the name of the file. So you have to get that clear. So theme products, and once that is sorted, I can just quickly just copy all of this. By the way, let me just modify this also. This should be raw products, and I'm going to copy this part, Ctrl C to copy. I can give some space at the bottom, Ctrl V to paste. Let's undo the customers, and then I'm going to double click, copy these, and let's replace these, Ctrl V, and I'm going to do theme underscore Ctrl V customers, and of course that is sorted. I'm going to copy this, and let's move to the bottom. Let's undo the region, which is going to be the last file. Regions, I can double click, Ctrl C to copy. I'm going to come here, Ctrl V to paste. I'm going to come here, theme underscore Ctrl V to paste the regions, and this is consistent. Now, before you run this file or this pipeline, you want to actually go through the whole thing just to make sure that there's no error. So the first thing we did is to start by writing the create streaming live table, because this succeeds the delta live tables, and then I'm specifying the name of the schema that I want this to be ingested into, which is the bronze, and the name of the table is fact sales streaming live table. And then I just have this comment, and then I'm using the create streaming live table and select star from the cloud underscore files autoloader function, and I'm specifying this path as the first parameters, and then specifying the CSV as the path, and then I'm using the map function to include the header equals to true. So this is correct, and when I check the product, everything is aligned properly. So I can proceed to run this. Now I can choose to do dry run. So this is going to actually start preparing the new graph. Now this is not going to actually run the entire stuff, just to check that everything is actually correct in terms of the schemas and so on. If there's any error, I can quickly see and fix those challenges before running the pipeline. So I'm just going to wait for some couple of moments, and you can see how this actually going. So once that's sorted, I'm going to see at the bottom the results. All right, so there's an error, cannot redefine dataset Lakeflow DLT So let's see the content of the error. So message cannot redefine this dataset Lakeflow. I think there's an incorrect spelling around that side. So I'm going to expand, and I'm going to expand this. Let's see, this is theme products, So let me quickly check it out by coming to this place. All right, so this is the product, and let me see. You can see there's a mistake. So I actually forgot to rename to change. So this should be customers. So I'm actually using products twice. So this is for the dim customers, and then I can go to the top. So this is for the product. Let me just check again. So this is fact sales, and the last should be the region. So I'm going to double click and change this to regions. All right. So there's an inconsistency of the names of the streaming live tapes there. So this is now fixed, and I can go and rerun the dry run again, and this should give us no further errors. All right, amazing. So the run completed, and I can see the success at the bottom. So I can also see the streaming live tables. Now, this is actually not running the pipeline. If this is actually running the pipeline, I'm going to see the check mark, this green check mark across this table, but this is just a dry run just to make sure that everything's actually fine before we run the pipeline. And I'm going to click on this maximized, and I can see the customers, fact sales, product, regions as the streaming table, which is cool. Now I'm going to close this or minimize this so that I can see the code, and that's cool. Now I can go on and run the pipeline just to now execute this. So click on this run, and since the dry run succeeded, definitely the pipeline run will also succeed. So that's the benefit of using a dry run, so that I don't have to just run the pipeline, wasting resources and wasting some money as you're doing all of that. So this is now running, so you can see that I've got all of these green check marks. So this is now completed. Cool. This is complete. I can see the run complete entirely. Absolutely. So we can see this green check marks around each of the streaming tables. Again, I can maximize, and I can see all of that. I can close this for now, and I can go right into the view table metrics. Click on that. So I'm going to see the content of, in this case, the customers table, and I can see I've got the customer ID, first name, last name, email, join date, and of course we have this rescued data column that is automatically included. And I can see this contains all the string data types similar to the CSV. That's cool. Once I'm done, I can come to the table metrics, and I can see the information about this customer table in the bronze schema. I can see all the metrics such as the number of files, rating. We have no expectation constraint defined in this case, so we have not defined, and then we have the duration for this in job, and then we have the streaming as the type. So once I'm happy, I can go back to all tables, and I can check the fact sales again, and I can see the preview of the columns. I can see the data that contains the columns, sale ID, the order date, and so on and so forth. I can come to the columns. I can see the columns, and of course, these are string automatically because this is coming from CSV flat file. So I'm going to come to the table metrics. I can see all the information. A total of 50,000 records is written. When I come to the source file in Excel and I press Ctrl down arrow key, I can see I've got 50,000 of records, which is actually corresponding. And in this case, we have no expectation constraint defined, and we have no field. So this is actually looking good. Now I'm going to come here. Since I'm able to see the catalog, just click on the refresh. And when I click on the refresh, and I can go to the bronze, and there we go. We have all the streaming live tables, the customers, fact sales, products, and the regions. Excellent. I can also expand. I can see all the list of the columns in the regions um, table, and this icon tells you this is a streaming live table, not the standard Delta table. So you can see there's a difference between this Delta table, and the streaming table. You can also see we have the streaming table at the top, which give you the clarity of what this table is all about. So once that's sorted, I'm going to close this, and I'm going to close this Lakeflow underscore DLT underscore UC. That is amazing. Now we want to go ahead and start our data cleaning and this is going to be handled in the silver layer of our Medallion architecture. So I'm going to create a new silver transformation.sql file and read the streaming live tables from the bronze schema. I'm going to claim using the cast functions and of course the to-do functions in Spark SQL, and then I'm going to write the silver schema as streaming live tables into the silver layer. So let's quickly do that. Now to switch back, I can click on this workspace and then I'm able to see what's going on here. I'm going to click on the pipelines, and we have the main folder, Databricks Declarative Lakeflow Pipelines, and I can see the transformation where my source code is actually stored. To create the second CSV or SQL file, I'm going to click on this kebab, and I can see the option to create a file, and it's going to be created within this transformation. So first, you're going to specify the name of the language you intend to use. So this is actually fine. You cannot even use the Python to perform data cleaning, but I'm going to maintain consistency across the language to use. So I'm going to use the SQL all through, and I'm going to call this one silver underscore transformation. Again, you can use whatever name you like, but make sure it ends with .sql, and optionally you can define the dataset type. So in this case, because this is not a materialized views, I'm going to stick with the streaming table because we just want to perform data cleaning without handling all the records that are either missing from the rows and so on. So this is not going to be a materialized view, but a streaming table, similar to the bronze that contains streaming table. So I can do this and click on create, and a new file is now added. Awesome. Now let me just minimize this, and I can minimize this Lakeflow designer, and this is actually going to generate this kind of code for me. Actually, I don't need all of this, so I'm going to select all of this and delete. And let me just put in a comment. So I'm going to say fact. Let's start with the fact sales. Fact sales data cleaning. So I'm going to type create streaming live table, and I'm going to control where this is going to be stored. So I'm going to store all of this inside the silver schema, and I'm going to give this a name. Let's call this on fact underscore sales. So this is going to be data cleaning for the fact sales, and I can just press enter and include a comment. So comment inside double quote. I'm going to call this on fact sales data cleaning, and I can use the as select, and I'm going to press the tab key. Oh, let me just move this down to the bottom and press the tab key. So I'm going to start by coming to the source file just to show you. So just like every columns in a CSV file format will automatically be treated as string data type. So we want to actually cast the sales ID, the order date, customer, and so on and so forth with the appropriate data type. So that's going to be the little data cleaning to be performed. So I'm going to come here first. I'm going to grab the sale ID, and to transform or to cast or to convert the sale ID into integer, I'm going to use the cast function, and I'm going to put the name of the table sale ID, and I'm going to say as int, and I'm going to use the same sale ID name. I'm not going to change the name of the column, and I can press enter. And I'm going to, for the second one, this is going to be the order date. So in this case, I'm going to use the to date function, and then for the to date, I will grab the order date column, and I'm going to specify the format inside a single quote. This is going to be dd / capital letter MM, and then / the Y in 4 places, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to maintain the same order date as the column name, and put in a comma, press enter, cast, and I think the next should be the customer ID, product ID. So let's quickly do that here. Customer underscore ID, and this is going to be as an integer data type as, and use the as and customer underscore ID, put in a comma. The second is going to be, or the next one is going to be product. So I'm going to type in product underscore ID as integer data type. I'm going to maintain the same name of the column. So as product underscore ID, put in a comma. So cast, So I'm going to come back here, and the next is going to be the quantity and the discounts. So I'm going to type in quantity as integer, and I'm going to maintain the same name, quantity, put in a comma. So next is going to be the discount as integer as the same discount name, and let's use the cast. So I'm going to go to the region and the channel and the promo code. So region underscore ID, this is going to be an integer. I'm going to maintain the same name, put region ID, put in a comma, cast. So the next is going to be the channel. This is going to be a string channel, also as string, and I'm going to maintain the same name, and let's undo the promo underscore code as string, and I'm going to use the same promo code. Okay, so this is now sorted. Now I'm going to, of course, get this from the intermediate bronze layer or the bronze schema. So from, I'm going to press the tab key. Now I'm going to go back to the catalog, and I'm going to expand this up to my organization, and I can see the Lakeflow. And since I'm going to get that from the fact table in the bronze schema, I'm going to expand this and I can see the fact sales. So I can just click on these double arrows to automatically populate the path for me. And this is the three namespace: the name of the catalog, dot the name of the bronze, that's the name of the schema, and then the name of the table. So this is how we're going to be transforming the fact cells. So I'm going to put in a semicolon here, and I'm going to quickly copy this and just Control V to paste at the bottom. Now let's undo the customers data cleaning. So I'm going to type in customers, and let me just call this one customers, right? And I'm going to say in the comment customers data cleaning, and once I'm happy, we can move to the column selection using cast and so on. So let's come to the file, and this is the one. So we need the customer ID. So I can just double click on this and call this one customer, or since I've got one here, let me just get rid of this part. All right, so I can maintain this customer ID as int, and the next is going to be the first name, last name. So let me just clear this part for now, and I can double click and call this one first underscore name, and I'm going to double click, copy this, Ctrl V, and then I can copy this, Ctrl V, and let me just call this one last name, and I can double click, copy, I can double click or Ctrl V to paste, and I'm going to put in a comma, and let's see, we need the email and the join date. So I'm going to say, hey, cast function, and then we need the email column as string, and I'm going to maintain the same column name, and I'm going to cast, and the next is the join date out. So for this, we're going to use the to date function. So in the brackets, I'm going to type the name of the column, so join date, and I'm going to put in a comma inside the single quote. I'm going to type a dd / capital letter mm / and then the jyy, and I'm going to maintain the same join date as the column name. And finally, the last is the VIP, I believe, VIP, and this is going to be a string, also text, and we maintain the same VIP name. So that's sorted, and I can come here, and since the name of the file, let me just quickly just get rid of this so that we don't get any errors. So since we are dealing with the customers, I'm going to come here and click on these double arrows, and it's going to populate for me. So I'm going to put in a semicolon, and let's quickly copy this, and I'm going to come to the bottom, give some space, Ctrl V, let's call this one products, and then for the products, I'm going to use the same name here, products. So it's going to be silver dot products, and I'm going to call this one products. And for the product, I'm going to call this one product underscore ID. Double click to copy this, and I'm going to paste. And I think the next one should be the product underscore name. Yep, that should be the next. I'm going to copy this, and this is going to be string also, and I should have category. Yep, so category column, I'm going to copy that, paste, and let me check so that I don't. So I've got the product name, category, price, and in stock. So cool. So I'm going to call it on price, and this is going to be an integer data type. So I'm going to use the same price as the column name, and just get rid of this. And I'm going to call this one the in stock, and this is going to be an integer data type also, and I can use the same name. Oops, in stock. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to replace this, Ctrl V to paste. And I can just change this from customers to products, all right, just to make sure it's aligned properly. So this for the product, and let's just undo the last one. Let me just copy all of these parts. The last is going to be the region. So backspace, Ctrl V, I can double click. Let's call this one regions. And this is going to be the name of the streaming live table regions. And I'm going to call this one region. So this is incorrect spelling. I'm going to correct that spelling. Okay, so and this comment, and of course I can say, and this is the comment. So as select, and the first column is going to be the region ID automatically ID, and this is going to be as an integer. We want to maintain the same name, and I'm going to call this one region underscore ID. So the next should be the region name. So region underscore name as int, and let's maintain the same region underscore name. And I think the last one there should be the country. Sorry, this is a string, not an integer. So as a string also, and we maintain the same name. So let me quickly check it out to be sure. All right, so I've got the region ID, region name, and the country that is corresponding. So I can come here again, Control C to copy this, and Control V, and I'm going to call this one regions, and that is consistent with what I've got in here. So this is how we're just going to perform the data cleaning without using the materialized view yet. So once this is sorted, I can go ahead and run the dry run just to see if there is any errors to be fixed before we actually run that. So I can see there's an error. I'm going to expand this, and I can see the region names, region ID are duplicated in that set. Okay, oh, I've seen the problem. So this should be region name, not ID. So again, that's the benefit of running the dry run. So again, I'm going to check again, run that. Amazing. So this run succeeded. Cool. Now I'm going to go to the all tables, and I can see I've got a total of 8 streaming live table, 4 for the bronze schema and the 4 for the silver schema. So I'm going to proceed to run the pipeline so that we can see all the 4 streaming live tables in the silver schema of our Unity catalog. So click on this run pipeline. All right, so this returned an error. Let's check it out. I'm going to expand this. I can see cannot create a streaming table append once flow from a batch query. This prevents incremental ingestion from the source and may result in an incorrect batch and so on. Now, the problem here is very easy. So I'm going to quickly go up and wrap this reading path with a string. So I'm just going to type in string, And this is going to take care of the error, and this is going to allow us to be able to incrementally ingest data that's going to be uploading later. So just wrap string, and I'm going to come here, I'm going to wrap this with the string. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and do the same thing around there. I'm going to type in string, open the brackets, and I'm going to close the brackets on the side. And I'm going to do that for this product. I'm going to type in string, open the brackets, and I'm going to close the bracket on this side. When I scroll to the bottom, I'm going to finally do the same thing for these regions. String, open the bracket, come here, close the bracket. So it is important in order to allow the incremental ingestion to be able to fully kick off after we implement this entire solution. So you must include string around the path, that is the three namespaces you're reading from. So once this is sorted, I can go ahead and run the dry run again. Now, of course, it's going to, work fine. So once this is now successfully done, I can go ahead and click on run the pipeline. So I can say this is now preparing a new graph. And at the bottom, I can say initializing, setting up tables in the bronze schema. And this is now performing the pipeline execution. And you can see voila, we have the completed green check marks, completed green check marks, completed green check marks. So I'm just going to wait for a couple of moments, and there we go. The run is completed. Now at this point, I'm going to maximize the pipeline graph, and I can see how this is taking shape. So I can see the streaming, and these are the bronze streaming tables, and I can see the silver streaming tables. Awesome. Now you can do some couple of things. For example, you can click on this to fit to view so that I can see better in case if you're actually widening it too much. You can actually zoom in if you like. You can zoom out. And there's something that I love here. You can come to this more option, and we've got this DAG orientation. So I'm going to turn the DAG orientation to the vertical layout, and this is really cool. So this is absolutely fantastic. And we've got this little map on here. So when you come here again, you can see there's an option for you to turn off the mini map. So when you turn off this, so we can see the map is gone. And when I go back, and I can toggle it on, and then it's back. Absolutely fantastic. Now we can come here to the catalog, click on this to refresh, and when I expand the silver schema, there we go. We have all the 4 tables. Absolutely fine. So despite the fact that we have different kind of schema storing the bronze and the silver streaming tables, everything is still maintained in a single pipeline graph, and that's the beautiful part. And then we can see the total number of output records, which is 5k, and this is the fact seal that contains the 50k, and I've got 500 records in the product, and then we have 10 records in the regions streaming table. Awesome. Now I'm going to move this up a little bit. So you want to go ahead and inspect the data from outside this Databricks Declarative Lakeflow Pipeline. So I'm going to come to the catalog, and when I come to the catalog, I can go here and I can go to the streaming tables. And again, don't forget, these are not materialized lake views. These are just streaming to live tables. So let's see the fact sales. When I click on this, and I can go to the sample data, and this is going to actually ask me to quickly connect to maybe a SQL warehouse or a cluster. So once I connect, and I'm just going to wait for some couple of moments, and in a matter of maybe seconds, we are able to see the sample of the fact sales streaming live table. So once that is sorted, I can also come to the view. I can check the view, and I can see the permissions, if there's any, the history, lineage, and so on and so forth. So this is the sample, and there we go. We have all the columns properly transformed or cleansed from the string to the appropriate data types. Let's come to the details. Now in the details, we're going to see this is a streaming table. If you probably know about tables in Databricks, we have the managed table, external tables, and this is another type, which is a streaming table. So this is actually different from the managed or the external tables, which are also known as the Delta Life tables anyway. So this is streaming, and for the permissions, we don't have any permission yet, and you can go through all of this later on. So once that is sorted, we want to go ahead and create another silver clean data.sql. Now we're going to be using that to create our materialized view by combining all the columns from all the fact and dimension streaming live tables using left join. And importantly, we're going to be including the constraints to drop rows of data from columns that do not meet the constraint expectations that we're going to be specifying. And afterwards, we're going to write to the silver schema. I'm going to come back to the workspace, and I want to go right in there, and let's go in there. So I can just open any of the file, that's fine, but let's just open from the silver, but we're going to maintain the same view anyway, so anyone is fine. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to the workspace so that I can see the source code and so on and so forth. And then I want to click on this kebab again to create a file. Let's call this one, let's use SQL language, and in this case, I'm going to call this one cleaned sales data. You can use whatever name you like. And in this case, I'm going to be more specific about the dataset type. This is going to be a materialized view, not the streaming table. So I'm going to click on create. So you can see this is now created. And I'm going to minimize this pipeline graph, and then I can see this code that is generated. Let me just get rid of everything. So I can write my code. So I'm going to say, hey, create materialize, or let me just use create or refresh materialized view. And I'm going to give this a name, and it's going to be stored inside the silver schema. And let's call this one clean sales data. And I can put in the constraints, I can put in the comments, but let's just put in the constraint first. So I'm going to open the brackets, and I'm going to start by typing constraint. And for the constraints, what I want to check, let's come to the fact sales. So I want to check if the quantity column is not null. I'm going to go ahead and define the constraint that I want to include to ensure data quality. So I'm going to open the bracket, press enter. I'm going to type in constraint, and I'm going to start with the sales quantity column. So quantity check, and I'm going to use the expectation. So I'm actually expecting that the quantity column should not be null. So if it's null, if that is violated, then I want to drop those rows that contains nulls. So I'm going to come here inside the expect, and I'm going to type in the name of the same column, that is the quantity column here. And I'm going to now say if quantity is not null. So if this is now null, so what should happen? So I'm going to say on violation of this constraint, I want to drop the row. So rows, and I'm going to put in a comma. So because I want to include more than one constraint, I can just put in a comma to separate them. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to Control V to paste. And let me just move this to the back a little bit, and let me close this for now. All right, so get rid of this bracket. So let's undo this next one. I'm going to come in. So I've got some blanks in the channel. So I'm going to just say sales channel check. So you can actually use whatever you like around the side. Check. So I'm going to check if the channel is not null. So channel is not null. If it's violated, then I want to drop those rows. And let me just copy this, and I'm going to Control V to paste. So the next is going to be our promo code. All right, so for the promo code, I'm just going to make a modification to this promo code. So I'm going to type the name of the column, promo. Now you want to make sure this is correct. So if promo code contains nulls, upon violation, then drop those rows. So I think this is fine. Of course, I've got more to specify, but this is fine just to see how it works. Anyway, let me just include one more so that we can see how it works across other tables aside from the fact sales. I'm going to Control V, and I'm going to quickly come to, I think that should be the customer. So in the customers, I've got the emails that are missing. So let's assume that we want to drop all the customers where the email are missing. I can just do that in it. So I'm going to say customer email check. So let me just get rid of these, and I'm going to type in the name of the column, which is email. So if the email contains nulls, just go ahead and drop those rows. And this is all we need to do for the constraint. You can add more as you like or based on your business requirement. Now we want to go ahead and specify the comment. So I can put in a comment and inside double quotes, let me call this one clean sales data, and I can use the as, and I'm going to use the favorite select. And now we want to select all the columns from all the tables excluding the dimension primary keys. So to guide me, I'm going to expand this, and let's expand this lake flows, and let's start with the fact sales. So I can see all the list of the columns. So I'm just going to come here and I can type in an alias. I'm going to say FS for fact sales, and I'm going to type in the sale ID. I'm going to put in a comma. I'm going to say FS dot. Then we need the order date, and then we need the FS. I can use capital letter or small letter, it doesn't matter. And then the next is going to be the customer ID. Let's do the FS dot. So we need the product ID. FS dot quantity column, comma, FS dot. We need the discount. FS dot the region ID, and then we need the channel, and then we need the promo code. Okay, so you can see these are the representation of all the columns in the fact sales, which is cool. Now let's move to the next table and let's undo the customers. So I'm going to just use C for customer. So I'm going to type in C dot. So in this case, I want to start picking the customer first name, last name. Of course, I can concatenate this, but I'm not going to do that. So let me just use the first underscore name C dot last name. Then we need the email address C dot email C dot join date, and then we need C dot VIP status, and I'm going to put in a comma. Let's move to another table, this time around product. So I'm going to type in P dot, so we need a product name, P dot category as the next column, we need P dot price, and then we need the P dot in stock. I'm going to put in a comma, and let's move to the last one, which is the regions. So I'm going to alias this as R, and then we need the region name, region country, and that's all for now. So we want to perform a simple calculation. So we're going to be multiplying the quantity from the fact sales by the price in the product table. So I can just come here and just do that. I'm going to type in, let's start with the FS dot quantity column, and I'm going to multiply that with P dot price because the price is located in the product table, and I'm going to call this one revenue. All right, so let's call this one revenue. All right, and this is just going to be what I needed. So I need to specify where it's going to come from. So this is going to be coming from, let's start with the fact sales. So I'm going to just populate this, all right? And then I'm going to put in the FS, the alias that we defined. So FS for the fact sales. And I'm going to use the left join, and I'm going to join that with, let's start with the customers. So I'm going to populate this, and I'm going to use the C that we use for the alias. And then on keyword, I'm going to grab the fs dot. Now we need the customer ID, which is present as the foreign key in the fact sales, equals to C dot customer ID, which is the primary key in the customers table. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the next left join. And then for the next one, let's populate the product. So click on that, and then I can type in the P that we use for the alias, and then the on keyword. For the on keyword, I'm going to type in the fs dot product ID, which is the foreign key, equals to the P dot the product ID column, which is the primary key. And finally, for now, let's use the last left join to join the region, and I'm going to alias this as R. Again, the on keyword fs dot region ID, where it's equal to R dot region ID. All right, so that's all we need to do. Now you can see there's a lot of typing. Now I'm going to actually highly recommend you type all of this out. I believe these are all correct. And this one, I run the dry run to check. Amazing. So this run succeeded. Cool. Now I'm going to click on the run pipeline. So this is going to run the whole thing from the volumes to the bronze to the silver and then to the materialized lake view. So setting up tables and voila, there we go. So this is turning green product, the fact sales customers. And when I scroll down to the bottom, we'll see the region, and we have the cleansed sales data, which is the materialized lake view, which has now been created. So this also succeeded. So you can see there's an icon here that tells you this is a materialized lake view with a turbo sign. Cool. Let's see the pipeline graph. Cool, amazing. So this is taking shape. So in this case, I've got a total of output record 13K, and when I come to this side at the bottom here, I can switch this back, to the other view. So I'm going to click on this clean sales data, and when I click on it, I can see the table at the bottom. Absolutely fantastic. I can come to the columns, and then we can see all the columns now transformed to the appropriate data types. You can see we have quite a long list of columns. We have the revenue as integer, we have the integer for the in-stock, and so on and so forth. Let's check the table metrics, so I can see that here at the bottom. So we have a total of 13,000 written records, and then for the expectations, we have the 4 of them that we defined which are not met. So when I click on this, and on this side we have more information about the constraints that we defined in the materialized link views. So under the expectations, we have a total of 25.9%, which amounts to 12,935 records written into the cleaned sales data, and then we have a total of 74.1 records dropped, amounting to 37,065 records. Now, in the production environment, you're not going to be dropping this huge amount of data, but because of demonstration, I'm actually showing this importance of data quality and dropping quite a huge number of records. So when you look here, you can see all the constraints defined. You have the sales promo code, a total of 36,533 rows were dropped. And then for the channel, this just dropped 2%, which is 991. And for the customer email, a total of 971 rows of records were dropped. And then for the sales quantity, this is less than 1%, 44 records. Awesome. Now you can come to the all, and it's going to show you the whole thing. If you have any failure, in case if you use on the expectation not met, this should be failed. So you're going to see all of that around the side. And let's check the flows. In the flows, I can see the name of the tree namespace, the name of the catalog, and the name of the claimed sales data. And then we can see the flow ID, the flow type as a materialized view, not a streaming live table. And then we can see the status as completed, and then the start time. And this took 6 seconds to compute or to run. So that's cool. So once I'm done, I'm going to come back to this side. Now, as I've mentioned, this actually look pretty good, pretty awesome, and I love this functionality that allows me to switch from different kind of dark orientation based on preference. That's sorted. Now I want to go ahead and create another SQL for the gold and create 3 business level aggregate SQL queries. So I'm going to come back here, and then I'm going to click on this transformation and create a new file. Again, I'm going to stick with the same language and use the call this one gold transformations.sql. Again, I'm going to select the streaming view and click on create. And this is now created. Now, to quickly speed things up, I'm just going to copy and paste the code. Let me just minimize this first. And there we go. So I'm going to use this code to just generate 3 aggregate level gold layer calculations in SQL. Okay, so in this code, I'm creating or refreshing the materialized view, and this is going to be stored in the gold schema, and this is the name of the materialized view. In this case, this is named category sales summary, and using the as select. So I'm selecting the category column, and then I'm extracting the year from the audited column, and this is aliased as year, and I'm summing the revenue column. So this is going to give us the total revenue, and this coming from the materialized lake view of the claimed sales data. So this is what I'm talking about when I expand and expand. So this is the where the data is actually coming from, the source. So this is coming from the Lakeflow DLT UC.silver.claimed sales data. Cool. And then I'm just performing this group by the same columns, and then I'm ordering by the category and the year. And I'm also doing something similar here. I'm creating revenue by customers in each region by ranking. And again, this is coming from the same cleaned sales data materialized view. And when I go to the bottom, I'm creating this customer lifetime value estimation. And again, this is coming from the same place. So let's go ahead and run the dry run. So I just click on that. And let me move this to the top a little bit. There shouldn't be any error. Yeah, no errors. So once the dry run has successfully executed as we've seen, I can go on and run the pipeline. So click on this pipeline. I'm just going to start preparing a new graph to update all the records. So we can also see, even as this is going on, this has been provisioned. All the 3 business aggregate SQL queries has been provisioned as the gold layer. So this is actually setting up the tables, and let's see the final solution. Amazing. So this succeeded, and the final path is the writing into the respective tables. There we go, run complete, and then we have the category sales summary, and this is a total of 56 records, and then the customer lifetime value, this is 4.6k, and then I've got this 52 records for the revenue by customers in each regions by ranking. Fantastic. Now let's turn this to another dark orientation, and I think I love this. For me, this works fine. So this is actually superb, and I'm going to refresh my user catalog, and I'm going to expand. And when I go to the gold, there we go. We have the 3 materialized lake view for the business aggregate calculations, and we can use this, to generate insights, do some couple of things. Fantastic. So we want to go ahead and schedule the Lakeflow, and we're going to create an AI BI dashboard. So to schedule, I'm going to click on this option to schedule, and I'm going to maintain the name. So let's do this every day by going to the advanced, or let's do by minutes anyway. And let's schedule this to run every 3 minutes, and I can see the time, and the zone is fine for me. Click on the create schedule, and this is now scheduled successfully. Absolutely fantastic. Now we can go ahead and build our dashboard on top of that. So I can come back to the dashboards and I can click on create a new dashboard. All right, so first we need to bring out our data. That's really important. And I've got so many kind of options. So I want to go to my catalog and let's just play with the gold category sales summary. And I'm going to select this. So this is going to start my warehouse. All right. So basically I want to select this. So I'm going to click on this and I can use the option to add to dashboard. So this is now selected and this is going to automatically be queried so that I can see the content, and once that is sorted, I can go ahead and generate my insights. So I'm just going to wait for the serverless starter warehouse compute to be ready, and there we go. You can see the records. Fantastic. Cool. Now we want to go back to the untitled page. Let's call this one category sales summary and press enter. So I'm going to click on this add a visualization and let's just see the revenue displayed using counter and press enter. So this gave us 2 million plus. Let me just minimize this and let's create revenue by category using maybe bar charts. So revenue by category using bar charts. So I'm going to press enter and the AI assistant will automatically generate that for me. So that's lovely and cool. Now I can also include a slicer. So for the slicer, I'm going to just add a filter. Let me just add a filter, not a slicer anyway. So for the filter, I'm going to add a field and I'm going to add the year. So in this case, I've got year 2018 to 2024, I believe. Let me move this up a little bit. All right, so yeah, I've got from 2018 to 2024. So in this case, we don't have data for the year 2025. No problems. So I can go ahead and publish this for now. So once I'm happy, I'm going to click on publish. All right, and this is now published. Now I'm going to maintain this view of this dashboard. Let me just come to this tab. Let me just refresh so that I can add more data and track how the autoloader will automatically incrementally ingest new data going into the fact sales directory that we created. So we maintain this. Now I'm going to come here and let's go to the catalog, and based on what I explained in the beginning, I've got this fact sales 2025. So when I open it up, I'm going to say this business transaction for the year 2025 specifically, okay? And I've got 25, 26 records excluding the header. So I'm going to ingest this file into the fact sales directory we created of the volume, and then we'll see what happens after the schedule is executed. So let me just go back. I'm not going to save this. Come back here to my browser. Cool. And I'm going to expand this and we can go to the landing zone. That's where we have the volume. Click on this and then we want to go to the fact sales. And this is the reason why I created a separate directory for the fact and dimension tables. So I'm going to upload to this volume, browse, and I'm going to double click on the fact sales 2025. I'm going to upload. So the most important thing is that the data in the two files must have the same number of columns and structure. Of course, we can do schema evaluations, but in this case, we're just focusing on maintaining the same number of columns in the two files. So this is now ingested into this directory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the jobs and pipelines, and I can see that the scheduled job is actually going on. So I'm going to pause the video because this can take maybe up to 3 minutes as we specified to run. All right, so this job scheduled pipeline executed successfully. Awesome. So I'm going to click on that and I can check the output. So basically, you can see this has grown to about 62, and we can see some probably some changes. Of course, this may not be notable in this DAG pipeline, graph, but let's go ahead and check this out in our dashboard. So, we still have this 2.06 M as the total revenue. And when I click on this, we have the 2024. So I'm going to just give this a refresh. And I believe there should be some changes in these numbers and in the year 2025 included. Amazing. So, yeah, of course, we probably may not notice the changes in the total revenue due to the rounding to the nearest two digits. But when you look at the bottom here, you can see we have 2025. Amazing. So total revenue for the year 2025 is just a paltry 935. So that's why we are able to see the impact. Awesome. Let's quickly come to the catalog. And in the catalog, I'm going to expand the catalog. So I'm going to come to the gold and let's check the category sales summary because we have the year extracted. So let's go to the sample data and voila. When you check, you see that we've got 2025 here and then we have 2025. So the autoloader is actually incrementally picking all the new records from the fact sales 2025 that were ingested. So this simply means that this solution is actually high performance and scalable because as soon as you drop more records or files into that volume path, it automatically be picked up in the next execution of the Lakeflow ETL flow. And that's really cool. So we've seen how to activate this high performance scalable Databricks declarative Lakeflow pipeline from the beginning to the end. And this is typical of the implementation in organization. And I hope you've learned a lot from this free knowledge. So please kindly share with your friends, connection, like, comment, and please subscribe to this channel because it doesn't cost you anyway and this is going to help me to be sharing more of my knowledge with you going forward. So the best is yet to come, and I will thank you for spending your time to learn all of this and enjoy the rest of the weekend. See you in the next video. Bye for now.